What's up, Raiders? Bionic here. Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm excited today because I'm going to show you guys my second defensive team for mainly Tag Arena right now. I've worked on the gear. I tried to max it out. It's not quite there yet, but I think it's somewhat working. So what I'll do is I'll show you guys the 4 champions. I'll talk about it a little bit before, and then I'll show you guys some runs. But before I get started with all this, first of all, let me thank you guys for reaching 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yeah, I don't progress as fast as everybody else, but then again, my approach is a little bit different to this game, right? I tend to focus more on the free-to-play, low spender-ish, so I'm always out of resources. I can't test a bunch of things, but still, slowly but surely, we are increasing the amount of subscribers, which is supporting the channel even more. I've also started streaming. I think you guys know that already. I am doing some of the giveaways on Twitch. So tonight, I will be streaming at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I will be doing the next gem giveaway, okay? And so it is going to be 2,700 gems, and we're going to get 5 lucky winners, which are each going to get 540 gem. Okay, so I do these twice a month, and the one from this half of the month is going to be tonight on Twitch. We're also going to be doing some viewer summons, so if you have any extra shards left and you want to let me open them, well, do reach out. I would love to open your shards. Hopefully you get something really good out of it, okay? So all that being said, let's get going with these champions. But first, let's talk about the team real quick. So yesterday I showed this team right here, the somewhat passive aggressive team, where I'm relying a lot on the passives to do the work for me. I'm not stacking a ton of resistance, and I think that's the big difference with the second team that I've tried to build, is that this one is meant to counter the speed, and then this one is meant to just be really hard to kill and to take a long time to defeat. Therefore, what I'm hoping to do is to prevent some players from literally just attacking me, right? They're going to look at my roster and be like, okay, so this team maybe I can counter, but then this team is a little bit harder to counter, and then maybe this team, they don't know if they're fast enough. So if anything, what this is going to do is that if I only do a couple battles in a day on Tag Arena, hopefully it's enough to keep me in the green portion to move up to the next rank. Okay, so what I've committed to for this team right here, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do full sort of like accessible champions only, but it is very close. What we have is the Muscley Mage along with the Style of the Drakes, okay? I think this team has a pretty decent synergy. It could be a lot better, of course, but what I wanted to do was to, like I said, try and use more accessible champions so that you guys can somewhat replicate this, or at least you can, like I said yesterday, keep on focusing on trying to complete some of those fusions, all right? Because right here we have Rosin, which is a fusion, great champion for Clan Boss, and I will talk about his gear, but it's not perfect because I'm also using him in Clan Boss, so he's not dedicated for this right here, but still overall it's somewhat decent. We have Skull Lord, which is mainly for this and Faction Wars. Muscley Mage is Dungeons, this and Faction Wars as well. Same thing, Style of the Drakes is mainly Faction Wars and only this right here, okay? So let's leave that at that. Let's go over the champions, and then we're going to cover the footage, okay? So what we have on Skull Lord, Vargal is a shield set. This guy, I said it before, is screaming for a shield set. He has a very, very high HP, the second highest or third highest in the game, if I'm not mistaken, even more than Harvest Jack, even though Skull Lord is a defense type champion. And then look at his defense, look at his attack, although attack doesn't matter because he's a defense type champion. Look at Harvest Jack, right? The amount of defense. Even speed is lower, Skull Lord is higher. Look at his base resistance and accuracy. This guy is meant to be really, really tough and hard to kill. I think that's his purpose. So shout out to Shankers from my Discord for also somewhat helping me out or answering some of my questions. This is not the first time I tried to do a build similar to this, but I've committed the gear to it this time. Okay, so that's the big difference, is that I've shuffled things around yet again so that this guy can be in a shield set and have a lot of resistance. I say a lot. This is not crazy, okay? There are guys stacking close to 550, if not 600 resistance on their champions. Don't forget, though, I do have the Rosin Aura adding about 90. So this guy is sitting close to 500 resistance once he's in a match, okay? Decent amount of speed. You don't need a ton, but I do like having over 200 so that you don't get overlapped like a ton of times, right, by the really fast teams. Because if that happens, even though you're really hard to kill, they slowly chip away at you. So instead, you still want a decent amount of speed. Of course, HP could be a lot better. I would love to try and reach 100,000, 110, 120,000 if possible. But so far with the gear that I have, this is all I could do. You also want a decent amount of accuracy because he does have some debuffs. So you want to be able to apply that provoke. All right, so we do have, what is it, HP percent gloves, HP percent chest. We do have an HP ring, HP banner, amulet, sorry. So again, you see that not everything is maxed out right now, okay? Even this right here, resistance, so there's another 30 sitting right there. But I'm somewhat tight on silver right now. Maybe a fusion is coming, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna wait a little bit. Same thing here, right? HP could be a little bit higher. And as you can see, like, a lot of rare pieces, okay? So I'm like, it's not all legendary items, and they're 5-star, not all 6-star. So again, I just don't have that quality of gear, but you can imagine just how much better this could be if it was 6-star legendary across the board. Like I said, skills are not done. I do love this skill right here. If this was 100%, I think it would be that much better. It's interesting. I'll show you guys in the footage, but like he usually sort of like tries to provoke the leader, and most of the time that's an arbiter. So having control over the arbiter early on means she can't res. It's actually pretty solid. Okay, this skill right here is great. It certainly adds to survivability. I wish there was some form of crowd control in this, but I certainly wouldn't look to try and max this one out. If anything, maybe I would try and get this until we get those 3 right there. Okay, the passive is of course really, it's good in the long run. It's not crazy, but like it rarely happens. I rarely get to a point where the true fear is going to work, but still it's a nice plus. Therefore you also want accuracy for that to work. Okay, the A1 is pretty interesting as well, but again, I think it's not the main thing we're looking for. As for masteries, here's what I'm trying right now. I think these are pretty important. In fact, I think this is somewhat the best setup that I've come up with so far. Maybe I'll play around with it a little bit more, but you'll see that it's somewhat similar for all these champions in this team as well. Okay, so that's Skull Lord Vorgal. Then we have the Rosin, which is built for clan boss. That's my big problem, is that I do not want to make a second Rosin, although I could, because I have this guy maxed out in terms of skills. All right, and we know that his A3 can actually hit pretty hard, so I wanted him to have good stats offensively, but also have a decent amount of resistance and accuracy. So it's not easy to balance everything. Again, not a lot of legendary gear here. We do have 6-star crit damage gloves. We have a defense percent chest. I now have defense percent boots, and I went with Stalwart. I used to have him in lifesteal, but because I have a Battle Khazar for the clan boss, I figured, you know what, this is going to add to his survivability in arena, in clan boss, and he should be able to survive long enough to deal a good amount of damage against a clan boss. Amulet, we have crit damage. Again, this could be better. I could have a resistance banner right here, have even less accuracy overall, but I need above 200 for the clan boss. Okay, now we do have, what is it, flat defense right here, and like I said, all the skills are done. So total stats, he's a little bit low on speed. I need this guy to be closer to 180, but I'm waiting for glyphs. Still out of glyphs, always out of glyphs. 4.3k defense, not too bad. I'm aiming for 4.5k. I'm going to have above 200% crit damage once I'm done, and resistance is quite low, unfortunately. Of course, I could respec and get the resistance mastery, but again, then he would not work for clan boss. So until I replace him for good in the clan boss, I'm going to stick with this somewhat of a setup. Okay, so he does get crowd controlled every once in a while, but I do have a Muscley Mage to remove the debuffs. All right, Masteries, here's what I'm using right now. This is way back when I did this, before even having sort of like the counter attack. I will most likely change this, maybe go more into this tree right here, so offense and defense at some point. I'm still not convinced on how I'm going to do this, and if I'm not mistaken, okay, so yeah, that's why I'm waiting. I don't have my free reset. All right, but still, Rosin still working as intended, dealing a ton of damage, the main damage dealer of that team. So it is somewhat important that he survives the first couple of nukes. All right, so Stalwart seemed pretty fitting for that. Then we have the Sile of the Drakes. I put her in a Frost set because it's the only other good set I had. I would have put her in a solid Relentless set, which I think is also pretty good, or just random pieces to hit really good stats, okay? But you can kind of see with the quality of gear here improving, so we have legendary pieces, 6-star, that the stats are actually pretty decent. Pretty decent for a champion that does not have even a defense percent chest. We have a resistance chest, but we have an accuracy banner. Again, with her, you want to have a decent amount of accuracy because she does have a stun, and now she has the frost on top of it. Okay, so it is a form of crowd control. We do want to have that. We do have the provoke from the Skull Lord as well, 100% turn meter reduction from the rosin. So everything's sort of working together to control the enemy team once we survive the first couple of hits. So we have defense, gloves, resistance chest with triple roll on crit rate. Pretty solid. I just finished that this morning. This here as well, 2 rolls on resistance, pretty solid shield, a pretty decent weapon as well. So kind of see what I'm doing here, hanging on to pieces that have a lot of resistance. Helm is not done, but we have the right stats on there as well. We do have a 6-star HP ring with 2 rolls on defense, which is pretty solid. We do have a crit damage amulet. I still want to deal a little bit of damage with Sile of the Drakes. She has good multipliers. So Rosin is the first damage dealer, and then Sile of the Drakes is the second one, okay? And then an accuracy banner. As for her skills, they are all done. I think this is a great champion to have. If I would have had this champion before, I would have probably maxed her skills out anyway, but now I'm just doing it because it's an accessible champion and I'm trying to use them even more. As for the Masteries, I somewhat switched them up, but as you can see, it's very similar to Skull Lord Vorgal, right? Again, going for Unshakable here. We do want Harvest Despair in case the fights get really, really long. We start applying leech debuffs. Therefore, we can start healing ourselves a little bit more. Shadow Heal also helping for that quite a lot. Plus, she has the heal on her passive. So we have a good amount of sustainability. As you guys will see in the footage, Cycle of Revenge being really important. I do have this here for a little bit more accuracy because she has the stun. I want that AoE stun to land every once in a while. And then Rapid Response for a little bit more turn meter control. Finally, we have the Muscley Mage, who I've made a build video about before, but I've switched the gear around. This is to match up with the Skull Lord. So what I did is I sort of like took all the best shield pieces that I had that had a lot of resistance, and I spread it across these two. I could make one that much better, but I wanted these two to be balanced. I also needed my Muscley Mage to still function for my dungeon runs. So I needed that extra shield set somewhere. So I sort of like took apart the Renegade. I don't know if you guys remember, but I had the Renegade in a shield set, kind of took some pieces from her to make the Mausoleum Mage work, and so his stats are actually pretty decent as well. We have 230 speed, that's exactly what I need, 407 resistance, 50k HP, decent amount of defense, and accuracy, I'm not too worried about accuracy on Mausoleum Mage right now, okay? So here we have defense percent gloves, HP percent chest. We have a pretty solid helm here with a lot of resistance, and like I said, some of these other pieces here will have at least a little bit of resistance, right? If anything, better glyphs would help as well, but again, sort of like not the priority. Ring is not even done. Again, just trying to save on silver a little bit, but great ring overall. We do have a decent amulet right here with defense and resistance, and on this guy we do have a resistance banner with some defense percent rolls. Okay, so this is sort of like the best gear on my account, right, in the sense that I don't really use shield sets for anything else. So like these two guys are now getting some of the best pieces available, and some of my best speed pieces as well that do not have like a better for my arbiter, if you know what I mean. Okay, all skills are done on this guy. Masteries kind of similar, all right? I just don't have this right here because this guy is not really applying any debuffs, so instead we're using this Solidarity because he is applying a lot of buffs. Therefore, I feel like this is helping out quite a bit. We also focus on the heal here a little bit more, less than accuracy as you saw with Sile of the Drakes, but still very similar to Skull Lord and the Sile of the Drakes. Okay, so now let's go look at some footage that I recorded once again, and as you can see, it's working relatively well for low gold 4. Okay, here we have a typical blender build. Builds that I sometimes stay away from if I'm doing the speed game, right? Instead, what I'm trying to do here is to see if I'm tanky enough to survive those first couple of hits and to take control of the fight. Okay, it is also very dangerous. If we hit them hard, they're most likely going to counterattack depending on what kind of gear they have on them. But still, I think that once you hit that threshold of being able to survive the initial wave, and you can go into sort of applying your debuffs, it can work. I'm not saying this is going to work against platinum players. I'm saying this is going to give me some kind of fighting chance for where I'm at right now in Gold 1 Tag Arena. As you saw right there with our big AoE nuke from Rosin, that guy can hit, okay? He's there to do exactly that. I want that big AoE hit to take out a couple champions so that then it's easier to control the ones that are left, okay? Easy win right there. But again, this is not a team that is really powerful. But I'll show you guys my defense log on Tag Arena in a second, and you'll see that I think it's working. It's working as intended because it's hard for people to deal with their roster. So 2.6 million total player power. This one right here, same thing, 2.6, 183k. So we have a big team power, but that's because we're stacking a lot of resistance. It doesn't necessarily mean we're that much stronger. Again, as you can see right there, just surviving those initial hits, right? They don't have a huge damage dealer on that team, I get it, but they do have counterattack, which can really come into play, especially that we're doing this on auto. I'm not trying to like target one of their champions right away to take them out. Obviously, it would be easier, but like I said, this is a team that I would use on the defense most of the time. It's not necessarily the team that I use on the offense to try and get some wins in low gold 4. I have my speed team for that, you know what I mean? So this one is going to be a little bit longer, but I'm going to fast forward it because it's still a win, okay? Slowly but surely, we're able to survive. Even if Rosin goes down, he's somewhat the weakest here. It's all right. We have a tanky Sal of the Drakes, which is going to bring him back up. I tried with Sal of the Drakes with a lot less resistance. She kept being crowd control. It did not work. It is really important that you have those three champions, which is, in my opinion, the Skull Lord, the Muscley Mage, and the Sal of the Drakes, constantly doing their job of healing, removing the buffs if it does happen, and reviving if the Rosin does go down, and then Rosin can go into his big AoE like that. You saw the AoE stun from Sal of the Drakes, which is working. It's controlling that Arbiter. It's really important. So like not a lot of champions could do this job better. I think Shanker's, again, shout out to him, but like he's using Roglin instead. He has her, great, but that's a Void Legendary. I don't have that, so I thought I'm gonna give it a shot with Sal of the Drakes because she is accessible. Okay, so another easy win, roughly. So that was a decent total player power, somewhat comparable to mine. I'm a little bit higher, but still. And then we're going to try this last team down here, a little bit harder, more team power, total player power, 3.25 million. And they do have some great nukers in there. Okay, so let's watch what happens on the initial sort of like nuke. Not a lot. Not a lot. Those two shield sets are really working well. They're allowing me to survive those hits. Then we can go into block debuffs, and then we start taking control of the fight yet again. And look at that Rosin right there, boom, taking out a couple champions. And then ideally we get the provoke on that Arbiter as quickly as possible from the Skull Lord, but it might not always happen. So that's why I'm thinking I'm gonna book him at some point with those content creator perks, and then you guys will be able to see what it really looks like when this team is fully maxed out, okay? So this is also going to be a win. The turn meter reduction there from the Sal of the Drakes, big hit from Rosin. So pretty decent. I'm impressed, but this is really gear intensive. The only difference is that it's not using my precious speed gear, or at least not as much. I think that's the big message here, is that if you're going to keep playing this game, or like in Tag Arena, try to get 3 speed teams, chances are, like me, you might have a hard time accomplishing that. Okay, so let's look at the battle log, because I think we have a perfect example here right now. This guy, which attacked me 3 times and then gave up. You can see what's happening, right? His roster is good enough to beat my speed lead, and then or like he's having a hard time, or he can only beat one. Then he's trying to shuffle things around because his champions are placed a little bit differently on each one of them to address my roster, and it's not easy. So that's the big goal here, is to create some kind of like synergy between your teams where they have a hard time addressing that. And for now, this is, like I said, what I am using. This main team right here is having problems right now because some of my best champions are now down here. So I have to fix this one to some extent, all right? And but that's where I'm at. Okay, so guys, I wanted to showcase this yet again. Sorry, this was another long video, had a lot of things to cover, show you guys some gameplay, but I really want to know what you guys think about all of this. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to show up on Twitch tonight, 7:30 p.m. for those precious gems, free gems. All right, later guys.